give me just a minute. Here it is. Okay. So, okay. So let's see. Let's start from the beginning. Have you got any questions regarding the corrections that I've sent you?
No, they are clear enough for me.
Okay, great. So let me just check a minute in case I've got things to add. Okay, I told you in my correction that it is better to, instead of saying higher education, to refer to the ages, but from science to okay. But I don't know if you're working with adults or teenagers.
Adults, university students.
Okay, then I'd say to foster communicative competence in university students, so that we know the level exactly. Okay, because depending on the country, higher education could also imply something different. Okay, not just university. Okay, and that opens up the interest in future readers of your work. Okay. Then in the objectives, the word implement cannot be used, nor in the general specific objective, because we're not going to actually implement. And be aware that all the objectives have to be assessed in the conclusions. So it doesn't make any sense to include objectives that we know we are not going to be able to achieve. Okay. Right. Then, in general, okay, in all the work, there is a comment that I usually put everywhere. It is when you've got one title and then another one. So try to avoid that. Write a little introduction. A sentence will do, okay? But don't leave two titles one after the other, okay? Right. And the same happens with the focus for research. Now, in the literature review, the introduction should be first, the presentation of the different sections that you're going to include, but also a little summary of the investigation method that you followed. Okay, where do you look for the articles? Which keywords do you use, etc. Okay, and also if you choose to select a timetable, specific timetable from this year to this year only, whatever. Okay, and the same applies to the rest of the things. Okay. And now let's move to the proposal, because, sorry, I have to look to the document because I can't remember exactly everything. There's so many of you. Yeah, and the red sentences, okay, those are very similar to the original, okay? So even though you've got the reference all right, okay, we need to make a little paraphrasing there, okay, so that it doesn't seem that much to the original. And then I had a question, and is that you've got active methodologies for teaching and learning English as a subsection, but then you've got another that's active methodologies for teaching and learning English, just one after the other, which was the second one is a big session. So I think you can just join them, okay? And have one.
Yeah, and my idea was to clarify the concept, going from a very broad general explanation, and then to get into teaching English.
Okay, but then try to change the title. Okay, in active methodologies for teaching and learning a language or a foreign language. Okay. And then we've specifically focused on English in the next session, because it doesn't make any sense to have the same title and different texts. Okay.
Okay.
And be aware that quotes need to be presented. Okay. We don't start or finish with quotes without saying what is going on there. Okay. Why is this quote here and not other? All right. And okay. Okay, quite a lot of information going on. Okay, and then we get to the intervention proposal. You haven't done anything there, so let's just go here. Now, the intervention proposal, okay, needs to have, again, a little introduction of the different things that, or the topic or the general idea of the intervention proposal. And then we move to the aims of the proposal. Now, these aims are the objectives you want your students to achieve by the end of the proposal. There's going to be a general one and a specific one, but they are student related, okay? Because some students, what they do is they copy and paste their master dissertations objectives here, but that's not the way to go, okay? So you think of the general objective, what do I want my students to achieve by the end of the proposal, and then some specific ones that will help you get there. Now, this part that says the contextualization is in Spain, okay, doesn't apply to you, so forget about it. And then we move to the context. Now, the context has to be detailed. All right. We don't need the name of the institution, university, whatever. Okay, that's not the point. But what we want to know is, okay, the university you're thinking as a context for your proposal, how is it? Okay, where is it placed? How many students? The resources, the facilities, teachers, any kind of information that you think it's relevant to understand, okay, why this proposal is important for that particular institution. That could be done in a paragraph, and then you move to the target group, which is referring to a specific group of people, okay? In here, okay, as they're university students, but the ages may vary, okay? You can just write a range from this years old and to these years old. If they're male or female, their competence in English, okay, what level they've got of English, and also the relationship, the motivation towards learning a language or towards the English in general, okay, as much detail as you can about the target group. And then we move to the timing, okay. In the timing, we've got to do two different things, okay. First, we need to justify when in the academic year the proposal would take place and why. Okay, maybe you think, okay, I'm going to do this at the beginning because I think it's important that they start working with this kind of methodology, or no, I'm going to be using some complex grammar points here, so they need to, at least have a few months, and then later I implement that. Okay, so whatever works for you, okay? You explain and justify that, and then we add a chronogram, which is that your intervention proposal is going to take like 2, 3, 4 weeks, I don't know. All right. And in each week, you're going to have different sessions. Okay. So we do a chronogram of those sessions. Okay. And point out how long are they going to be. You could also include the sequencing of objectives or the contents, but that's not actually necessary because you're going to do that also in the following section, which is sessions and activities. Okay. So those two things. Now, the methodology. Now, you've described theoretically the methodology in the literature review, but in here, what we want to know is exactly how you're planning to implement that in your classroom. So not only do we have to mention the methodological principles, but also how are we going to work? Are they going to be working in pairs, individually? Both things, in groups? Are we going to be just in one classroom, or are we going to, I don't know, the library or that's right. Okay, so you describe the spatial resources, material resources, the personal resources as well, and everything that relates to how you are going to work with the students, okay? You could also add a description of the activities, okay? Maybe say that you are going to start all of the sessions with a warm-up activity, okay? Because that was their motivation, but then you explain this here, okay? And then a little summary of all the types of activities, okay? The types of activities. And then we get to the hardest part, which is the sessions and activities, okay? Now, it is important in this part to be aware that we need to describe in detail every single activity, okay? That is very important. It's just, you've got in your head what you want to do in the classroom, but what we want to know is everything that you've got in your head. just in case you are unable to attend any class, I can go there, go to the session, go to the activities and see exactly what I have to do. All right. Now, my recommendation here, all right, is that you make a little introduction and then we have to develop at least 6 sessions. All right. At least 6. So we say, okay, session 1 is entitled blah, blah, blah. And then you write there the objectives, a little introduction, and then everything, the rest goes in a table because it's more visual. I'm going to show you an example of a table that is going to be in Spanish because it is a table that we use in another master, but I think so that you understand what I'm saying, okay? Just give me a minute and I'm going to change the document. Something like this, okay? Something like this. There are several things here that do not apply to you because they are related to the Spain legislation, the Spanish legislation, sorry. But so that you see what I'm trying to explain, okay? So session 1, we explained everything that I just told you, and we said, okay, activity 1, warming up, type of methodology, motivational or previous knowledges or whatever, okay? The objective that we want to achieve with this activity. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, okay? In the classroom, in the library, in pairs, in groups, okay? The resources, specifically resources, okay? So imagine that we are going to show them some pictures regarding a specific topic, and then we want to make a little debate, okay? Or we're gonna ask them some questions. Then resources, pictures on the blackboard, see Annex 8, and we put in the Annex 8 those pictures, and then we describe the activity. Okay, we start the class by greeting the students, and then we tell them that they're going to have to look at the blackboard, show them some pictures, and later we're going to ask them these questions. 1, 2 questions there, okay? And then we start a little debate that is going to last like 10 minutes, no more than that, okay? So that will be the level of accuracy and detail. Now, the evaluation of this activity, okay, it's going to be initial evaluation at the beginning. The teacher is in charge, and we're going to use a checklist to see if everybody cooperates, participates, and that's it. Okay, that will be an idea, more or less. All right, and going back to your document, it is a good idea to include examples of the activities as I just told you, okay? So if you're gonna give them a text, then include the text, look for it, okay? Or if you're going to, I don't know, play some music or a video or whatever, okay? Then you could, if there are websites, you can include them in the activity with a hyperlink. But if you're going to develop like questionnaire or if they're going to read a text or see some pictures or whatever, okay, you say, I'm going to put that in the annexes, and you say, okay, Annex A is for this activity, Annex B. The annexes should be included, but there's no need for you to create them for the next delivery, okay? You have time to do so. So don't worry about that, okay? You just say that is going to be found in the annexes, and you develop that later, okay? And once you finish developing these activities, we move to the assessment, all right? Now, in the assessment, we've got 2 different sections, the learning assessment and the assessment of the proposal. Now, the learning assessment refers to how we are going to evaluate or assess our students, in your case, your students, okay? So first, what types of evaluation are you going to use? Okay, initial, formative, summative assessment, and how are you going to develop that in the classroom? And also, what tools, instruments you're going to use to do that kind of evaluation. And we have to create those tools, okay? So if you said in activity 1 that you're going to use a checklist, that checklist has to be in the annexes as well, okay? So here, what we got, well, tools in general, as if we've got space enough, I will advise you to include them here. Okay, after the description of the activity, then I will say, okay, these are the tools that we are going to be used. And then in the activities, when you say, okay, I'm going to use a checklist, you see table 8, if that's the name of the table, okay? And here we have table 8, checklist for activity 1, session 1, whatever, all right? And you could also include the types of assessment referring to the agent, okay? Are you going to be the only one who assesses your students? Are they going to do some self-evaluation, co-evaluation, all right? And also, a reference to how you are going to grade them, okay? How do they get their grade from this proposal? Once this is over, we move to the assessment of the proposal. Now, in this case, for us to have a proper evaluation of the proposal, we actually need to implement that proposal and see if everything goes according to plan and blah, blah, blah. But that is not possible because this is theoretical. So we're going to do a theoretical analysis, which is a SWOT analysis. I think I told you about this before. SWOT analysis, are you familiar with the term?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry. So that will be it. But this is compulsory, okay, to analyze the effectiveness and feasibility of the proposal. And I think that by doing a SWOT analysis, that would be it. But some students also, as they are actually planning to implement the proposal in the future in their works, okay, what they do is that they create 2 tools to assess the proposal. One for the teacher, another one for the students. Usually the students, what they've got is a questionnaire, and the teacher usually has like a rubric or a checklist for personal use. If you want to include that, it would be highly, well, not recommended. I can't remember the word, but appreciated. Okay, that is something that when because I'm in defense committees, and when students do that, I congratulate them because they took the time to think about, okay, I am going to assess myself as well. And this is for next month, okay, for the 13th of November. Same way, if you got any questions regarding anything while you're working, because now more or less I suppose that should be clear, all right? But then we start working and doubts come, okay? So we can talk via email, okay? You can write me with your questions or your doubts as many times as you need, all right? And then after the delivery, okay, this delivery is going to take a little bit more to check because there's huge, the work of everybody is bigger, okay? But I'll get to you as soon as I can. Once you receive the corrections, all right, you write me. I advise you to write me via email, okay? Because the comments that you leave on the task, okay, it took them like a 2-3 days to get to my email, and I don't go to the task once I finish checking that, but the email comes directly to me, okay? So you write me an email, all right, and we meet again so that we can discuss the corrections and we can go over the next parts. But I'm going to do a little summary of the next parts as well, so that while you're waiting for the meeting, okay, you can continue working. But up to here, have you got any questions?
No, it looks fine right now.
Okay, great. Now, there are 3 different parts left after the second delivery. The third delivery, or no, the second delivery. Sorry, after the second delivery, there's 3 parts and the abstract, okay, for the final delivery. Now, the first one is the discussion. Now, this section is sometimes it's a little bit complicated for students because the discussion is where we compare our results from our proposal to what the experts in the literature review told in their works, all right? But we don't have actual results, okay? And we usually have a discussion face-to-face. So how do we do that on paper? Now, taking into account the objectives for your students, the aims of the proposal, you expect some results, all right? So those results, you start, okay? We expect our students to blah, blah, blah. And according to, and you mentioned those experts in the literature review. Now, imagine that I am an expert in the literature review. And I tell you that if you sing in the class, students get motivated. Well, as I was singing in my class in session number 2, I think that my students will be motivated because Professor San Miguel pointed out in 2020 that students get motivated when music and singing is in the classroom. It's a weird example, but that is, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, okay? That is what we will have to do, okay? Now, this section usually students do like a page, 2 pages, no more than that. And then we move to the conclusions. Now, this is the ending of your work, all right? So there are several things that we have to include here. I'm going to go to the outline because I think it is clearer, right? So what we do is that we start by making a reference to our general objective, the one of our master dissertation, and we assess that objective. In order to do the proper assessment, we also need to assess the specific objectives. Okay, so we start by the general objective, we make our comments regarding that, okay, if we have achieved it or not, and then we move to the specific ones. And then, or at the same time, okay, that depends on how you want to do it, we also need to include the main contributions that our work has to offer, okay? Some students, what they do is that when they are analyzing the specific objectives, they also include, okay, regarding this, the main contribution in this part is blah, blah, blah. But some others, they prefer to just analyze all the objectives and then we move to the main contributions. You could also include some personal reflections if you've got them. And then we close the session with a careful sentence that closes everything. Okay, perfectly okay. Now, in order to do so, remember your justification. You justify the importance of your work by referring to different problems or things that need to be changed in the classroom. So maybe close making a reflection on that, right? And up to here, everything it's finished, okay? This is the end. Now, what is the last part? Our critical analysis of the master dissertation, which are the limitations and perspective. Now that your work is finished, what we want you to do is to critically assess the scopes of limitations of your master dissertation, not your proposal, because that is something that you're going to do in the SWOT analysis, but of the whole of your work, okay? Now, have you got any problems? Have you had, any problems during the elaboration of the master dissertation? Maybe inexperience in the classroom, maybe the lack of resources to investigate more about anything, or that you were looking specifically you were looking for studies on the same topic that you're working in your country, but you didn't find, so you have to move to other countries in Latin America, something like that, okay? So those are your own limitations as the author of the work, okay? And as for the perspective, it's like the further research, okay? What future lines of work or research are opened once we read your paper? One of them could be very well implement the proposal and take the data and analyze them, okay? Maybe even implement that and compare two groups, okay? One control group, one experimental group, and see how things are going. That would be a perspective. But also, if you think that some of the topics are not investigated enough or not clear enough for in the academic world, maybe that will be another thing to include in here, all right? Bearing in mind your investigation and all that, okay? So this, as well as the abstract, should be for the last delivery, okay? The abstract is the last part, all right? Is the last part. It is just one paragraph, okay? It has to be between 150 and 200 words, I think. Okay, let me just look for it because I can't remember. I've got so many masters and sometimes I just get confused with the numbers here.
There it is.
150 words, no more than that, okay? No more than that. And it is a letter of presentation of your work, which means that you have to highlight the most important aspects. You have to make a reference to the general objective, the methodology you followed, and the main conclusions, okay? And then once you're finished from that text, you choose the keywords. They have to be in the abstract, okay? 3 to 5 keywords, which would be the most important thing, the most important words in your work, so that if somebody's going to look for them on internet or in I don't know, Google Scholar or in a magazine, if it is published, okay, your work will come up, okay?
Okay.
But that would be, I will repeat all of this because yo soy muy pesada. This is something for the last delivery, and I'm going to repeat that in our next meeting, okay? So do not worry if you don't get it. It's just if you want to continue working while you wait for the corrections so that you're not lost, okay?
Yes.
And that would be it. Have you got any questions?
No. I think I'm working well enough, and I understood your all of your speech. Yes. It
Okay.
was clear enough. Yes, Lorraine. Thank you very much for all of your guidance. And I'm sorry again. I want to tell you I'm sorry because I couldn't meet you the two previous sessions. But my country is going through a difficult moment, and as I told you in one of my emails, I have to go out of Quito, out of the metropolitan city on a highway, and I have to pass by some communities who are striking. So sometimes
I
it's difficult.
don't worry. Okay. Do not worry. Okay. Finally, we met. Okay. And
Yes.
your work is pretty good up to now. Okay. So if you've got questions, we can write. I mean, we can be in contact via email. Do not worry because you missed the appointments. All right. Um, and if anything comes up, you just let me know. All right. So don't worry and keep up the good work. I'm going to send you the link of this recording afterwards so that via email, so that if you need to check what we've talked or what we've discussed, okay, you can do that. All right.
Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, Sandra. Okay. Have a lovely day then. Bye bye.
Same to you, Hacks. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.